Well, it's about that chosen time. By speaking to each one of you, I do want to let you know we do have a quorum, and I'm going to call the August 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Financial Management Committee. This is going to be done by electronic and Zoom. Authorization coming from executive order. There's no physical location for this meeting, and it's for the reason of the protection of the health and welfare of the public due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to welcome you all. I hope that all of you have been forwarded with electronic copies of our agenda, our previous meetings, and other documents relating to the agenda if approved this morning. If you would review again, or if you're confident or comfortable with the agenda that is set for the day, I will entertain a motion for acceptance or admission or addition.
Yeah, we need to make it. Yeah, huh? We need to make it.
We need to make an addition to the agenda. The Sheriff's Department has a request to complete a credit application with Exxon to change from fuelman, whose fees have become outrageous,
And the school's gonna do it.
as well as the schools.
Okay, let's see. We will put that. We'll put that as 6B. That'll be following the review approval of the auto parts credit application for the school bus garage and solid waste. Mr. Kennedy, just in case I overlook this, please call my attention to it the way I'm marking my documents up.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other? All right. One of the other things, item number 4 on new business. I received a phone call about 20 moments ago from the sheriff and his staff. They have an ongoing incident for which he will not be present to answer or to address any questions relating to item number 4. It will be deferred till next month. There's no further. The table's open for acceptance of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda, please.
All right, Commissioner Holden, do I have a second?
Second.
Is that Commissioner Hill?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Kennedy, if you would call the roll.
Brad Johnson,
Aye.
Austin James, Mayor Rusty Barnett, Mayor Rusty Barnett,
Now, aye.
all right, Ginger Holdren, Roger Coball, Roger Coball,
Aye.
Tracy McAbee, Tracy McAbee,
Aye.
Travis Hill,
Aye.
Austin James.
Aye.
There you go.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. At this time, you review the meeting, prior minutes of the meeting on July the 6th. This will not, and there is not part of your package, is the special call meeting that we had on Saturday a couple of weeks ago. It is not being completed yet. From your review, the floor is now open for approval of the minutes or additions or corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Holden to approve the July meeting. Do I have a second?
No approve.
Do I have a second to approve?
I'll second.
All right, Mayor, thank you. Any discussion, omission, or discussion or comments? Seeing none, Mr. Kennedy, call the roll.
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Travis Hill,
Aye.
Tracy McAfee,
Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Mayor Rusty Barnett,
Yes.
Roger Cobal,
Yes.
and Austin James.
Yes.
All right, that was by the majority vote. The next thing is public comment. If there's any public present on the Zoom. There's
I'm
no
not
com-
showing any public present on the Zoom.
All right, thank you, Miss Abby. We'll go into the old business. The first item, number one, we have deferred until the September meeting so we can get all of our records, books, and everything closed, so where we can start in the September. Also, that'll be the month of which there will be some reappointments, some new assignments as to committees. So that will be a good point to start regardless. That way also that we can get all of our work at the finance department closed out for the previous year. Second item is discussion creation of the ethics committee and an investigation committee. This was once on our agenda. We've sent it back to the rules and bylaws. But since there was an item that I picked up on when I go back and reviewing the 81 Act, and that comes to the point of one portion of this. In the 81 Act, the financial management and the director of finance has some responsibilities in ethics. And I think it has to deal with finance part of it, but I'm gonna have to pass that by to our county attorney to see what boundaries that encompasses, whether it's full inclusive or if it just has to deal with just the finances. Of course, ethics can be more than just finances. And that's something that's going to have to be determined, I think, unless you have other input before we can go any further. Your comments? Seeing none, I'll forward that to the county attorney. The other is the discussion of the compensation time policy. Director Burke, I'm going to ask you to, if you will address that and identify the existing compensation time policy.
Okay, it is in the most current employee handbook. Actually, it is on page 16 under wage and hour policies, section 5.2 overtime. That's where it starts. It says in the handbook, overtime is defined as time actually worked in excess of 40 hours in a work week by a non-exempt employee. And most county offices work 8 to 4:30 hours for lunch, which is 37.5 hours per week. So it's been the practice, any hours from 37.5 to 40 straight time, comp time, and anything over 40 overtime, time and a half for each hour worked. And the next section is comp time, and it addresses the overtime as well. how to account for the comp time hours. It also says in the comp time section that any employee who has reached this maximum shall not work any additional overtime until the employee's accrued comp time has fallen below the maximum allowed, unless the employee receives advance written authorization and receives payment in cash for any such additional overtime. Next, it says the county reserves the right at any time to pay an employee in cash for any or all accrued comp time. In addition, the county reserves the right at any time to require employees to use any or all accrued comp time. And I understand there have been, some excess balances. I know our office had one several months ago. We have liquidated that one. At that time, we liquidated EMA. When I say liquidate, I mean to get below 100 hours, which is the max for regular county employees. But the Sheriff's Department has a policy which allows 480 hours accrued comp time, which is the maximum allowed under federal labor laws. And I looked at the accrued leave report for the county this morning, and currently there are no county employees other than EMA in excess of 100 hours. And for the Sheriff's Department, I didn't see any employees that had 480 hours or more. I know they have been working on bringing those balances down. Making the people take time off. I know there is some overtime in the budget this year in the Solid Waste Department, Animal Shelter, and Sheriff's Department. And those overtime has been paid for years and years. It was just classified in the regular salary line item for the employees instead of broken out into the overtime line item, which is how it should be. I know last month the committee discussed, or I think it was Josh may have brought it up, about having the commission approve a policy before any comp time is bought to have the commission's approval for that. I didn't know what course the committee wanted to take on that. Are there any questions about any of the comp time or overtime policies?
The highway department has a different policy on that. We pay, they accumulate 80 hours, and after that, we start paying them just on a regular basis whenever they get that as they accumulate it over 80 hours. And it works pretty good for us. We don't want any changes in that.
Thanks, Roger. I forgot to mention that.
Okay, there was some misunderstanding, and I'm going to say some misinformation during the budget process, or misunderstandings between commissioners as to the difference in the overtime and the comp time, in trying to determine the intent of the policy and procedure for comp time is that anything that is past 40 comes in as comp time. And there is no payout requirement for comp time until it meets the 100-hour mark. Is that your all's understanding?
It does say, as far as the county goes, the county reserves the right at any time to pay an employee in cash for any or all accrued comp time.
That is the county. So that means that the governing body, which is the full commission, would be the one that would grant such a thing. Is that not correct?
I would assume so.
I mean, that's the authority of the county and the whole total budget process. It says it's not so much as to who has it in the line item, but myself, it seems like having a comp time policy, if you're going to place it in your budget, is redundant. If the department head has it, they can pay it whenever, and we have no policy covering that. Now, in the previous administrations and previous years in the budget, as an example, the Sheriff's Department, when they went over a certain amount, near the end of the budget period for that fiscal year, they always brought before the full commission the request to use the excess funds at the close of the year to buy down comp time. Now, does that still go on? I mean, I don't remember it coming on the floor anymore. Of course, as finance director said, there's nobody near that limit.
I believe starting in 2019-20, overtime was actually budgeted in the sheriff and jail budget. And that was funded through the excess board bill money. But once again, the overtime has been paid out over the years. It was just paid out of the regular line items instead of the overtime category.
But from the board bill, did not that department head come before the full commission to gain permission to do that?
It was approved in the budget.
Okay.
And they're paying, there's not only just payouts for accumulated comp time or whatever, there's also overtime earned each pay in the second pay period for the sheriff's department. And I think most of that overtime is paid out instead of accruing to comp time. Kind of pay as you go.
But in previous years' budget request, to say it's going, you may not be prepared for, but back to 16-17 year, that has been a line item on budget request, the budget committee to formulate the final budget.
I don't know.
Okay, we need to find that out because one of the other, if you're going to have both of them, I think that unless you think otherwise, that we need to correct our policy to where it covers them all and how it's going to be used, because there's an amount of accountability that you, finance director, has to be able to monitor for our budget and for the budget committee.
I completely agree.
Anybody else's input?
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
on the EMA part, there'll be 40 hours of that gone this week. So we're trying to get back under, but again, we've had 2 plane crashes, several floods. Matter of fact, we was out a little while last night, 6 teenagers, young adults were floating down the river, didn't respond to, didn't get off where they're supposed to, and they was out searching a little bit last night for them. They found them all safe, but it's something all the time. But we'll take care of something. We'll take care of that comp time as time off. There'll be no pay for that.
Well, that's another point of the discussion of the comp time. The intent was if you get granted comp time as a department head, there was not a limit of time that you had to use that comp time that I can find in the requirements. But if you grant overtime by compensation, then sometimes they have to use that. That keeps down the liability of the county. Now, regardless of who has it in their line item of their budget, if you withdrew all of the overtime budget line items and handled it as the policy and procedures, look how much, I'm going to say, funds that you eventually save or is not committed for other use. Your all thoughts.
Mr. Johnson,
Sir?
couldn't the county operate like the highway department does when the employees gets that 100 hours of comp time, go ahead and pay them like the county does on a regular basis instead of letting it build up anymore?
Yeah, the only difference is, of course, in the employee handbook, and our policy is 100 hours. Of course, yours is 80. whichever they agree on, but there needs to be a policy or a set procedure on how that's to be handled.
Yeah, way I understand it is that after they get to 100 hours, they're not paying it, and they're not paying the employee after 100 hours. Is that the problem?
Mr. Burke, you want to address that?
No, they're currently, they're allowed to exceed 100 hours. I mean, if they work, I mean, they have to be compensated for either comp time or pay.
Yeah, well, I think they should be paid everything after 100 hours and not let it build up any higher. I thought some of the departments was letting them accumulate more than 100 hours.
For the county, there was just a couple, and like I was saying earlier, ours has been taken care of, and the EMA will be taken care of. It's not common at all for county employees to accrue large balances of the comp time, with the exception of the sheriff's department.
Brad Burke.
Yeah. Okay.
Your audio is awful.
Question. You said that the sheriff's policy was, what'd you say, 400,
480.
480 hours, and you said that was the federal maximum.
Yes.
Is he exceeding any of that?
Not currently, not as of June 30th anyway.
Okay, well, we just need to keep a very close eye on that then if he's done trying to go at the federal max then, because I don't want to get in trouble with the federal labor laws.
Right.
So, but they brought everybody down besides that, right?
Yes, the currently the highest one is, as of June 30th, is 474 hours.
Okay. Well, I guess you're keeping a watch on us. The reason why I guess they're buying them down. Just, we need to make sure we don't get it to 480 because get over the 480 there. Because I mean, that ain't, that's not us. That's the federal. So.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot we can do. I mean, the time is reported to us by the sheriff's department. It would be their responsibility to monitor that.
Well, you just, if you can, make sure they monitor. Well, I mean, they've got to report to us, so we know how many hours they're over, don't they?
We do after the fact.
Oh, well, I mean, but after the fact, then we can advise them, to get it bought down pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm getting at, just to make sure. Because, like I said, it's not really nothing to us. He's going to have to, they got to comply with federal. So.
Right.
But that's all.
Okay.
Okay, we have to also keep in mind too, about that department is the amount of hours that they put, because there is always, just playing holidays, which is double time according to the federal standard. And the next item is the activities that took place a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, on the Black Lives Matter protest or demonstration or whatever you want to classify it. That was an all hands. I mean, everybody was called up, both city, county, elected law enforcement officials, and everybody. So there was a 4-day, 5-day period where there was an unbelievable amount of overtime and comp time that was used for that occasion. So that's how it can accumulate real quick. If you were close to a balance or to the maximum and something like that comes up, it's just a little bit out of your control. But then again, Mr. Burke, that's something I think they're pretty well self-reporting, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay. But we still need to be brought up to speed as to, how close and all, because that in bookkeeping, that's a part of the liability of the county of what we owe in indebtedness is to that of comp time, correct?
It is. And we keep it in the accounting system on Skyward, and we can run a report at any time for any date.
Okay.
If I might, Commissioner Johnson, a question to Mr. Burke there. You said we can run a report of that. You said of any date.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Does it detail the employees, or does it detail just the office? How can you make that run?
It's by employee and by office.
Okay, so you can't make it just do office.
I may be able to. I just have to get in there and check the filters on it.
Okay, because I didn't know if it would be too much to ask you if we could get a copy of that once a month or once every 3 months, and we'll try to see if we can't see how it's kind of flowing here as we go.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Now, with that much discussion, is there any change, any addition, correction to our current compensation time policy that's in our handbook? Or do you want it for further discussion?
The handbook, along with the financial policy and procedures, of course, you already know these some serious revisions. And Josh has, as of a few months ago, has updated a portion of it, and the finance department needs to update the remainder. So we will have that in the future, or if you want to make any additions, changes, now that's fine.
Okay, does the committee like to have this deferred on as old business for the next upcoming month? Your all's input. Gee, don't everybody respond at the same time if you don't mind, right?
You want a motion?
I want anything. I just want to hear your voice.
I'd make a motion, we defer it.
Okay. It's not, since it's so quiet, Mayor, I'm going to take it on myself as the chair. We'll place that in the deferment, the remainder at the end of deferment until the September. Mr. Kennedy, if you will have that noted for the next agenda.
Yep.
All right. So I mean, we'll go into new business. In your packet, there is a bid sheet on bids that were opened or released or approved. Mr. Kennedy, I think that's your part. You want to take it?
Yes, and now looking at the sheet can tell that putting gray on there probably didn't help you guys be able to view it once you printed it, so I apologize for that. But there's only 2 parts that are grayed out because those are the 2 that have changed or that are still under review. The first is the financial advisor services for county debt service. We, as you know, picked Raymond James last month. And the others we've already covered, but I can cover again if need be. The only thing that is, there's 2 of them that are under review, is the Carter County Solid Waste RFP for addition to recycle building. That's still under review, and I think we're going to be talking about it later in this meeting. And then the architectural engineering and interior design services for multi-tenant fit out, that's still under review because we just opened that last Thursday. That's it.
Any questions for the finance department relating to the bid? Seeing none, next item, number 2 on the new business is the discussion regarding the applications received from for the financial director's position. I had this placed on there for the simple purpose as we did have a special call meeting, as you were aware of. Everybody was in attendance. And at the time, we were to depart and to review all 30+ applicants for the position of finance director. Since that time and following it, the finance director decided to change his request for leaving his employment, and then that making the application and the process of the special meeting void because there was no duties that we had to perform. My question is to you all and to Director Burke, since none of the applications were reviewed, you may have reviewed them personally yourself, but no action is taken on them, and there is not going to be any further special call meetings relating to that topic. What is the disposition of the applications that were received, because they pertain to a lot of privacy items on it?
I still have those on file.
Do we maintain those forever, or do we go ahead and discard those or destroy them because of the personal information on them?
That would be a good question for Josh, I believe.
Okay. I'll connect with him then. Anybody else's input on it? Mr. Kennedy, if you would put that also for next month, for we can find a determination from our county attorney as to the disposition of the applications and personal information that was forwarded to our county for that position.
Okay.
All right. Next item is the discussion regarding current RFP process, and that would be with Commissioner Colors and Director Benny Lyons of the Solid Waste. Commissioner Colors.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Benny had to take his wife for a medical procedure, so he's not on with us this morning, and I'm going to try to address this, but it might be at some point you might need to contact him for more details. But as you know, he has put out to bid 3 times, maybe 4 times for the new part to the recycling center. And every time he's not either getting the bids back, the RFPs back, or they're extremely expensive. He's had to go back and do it again. And he's been receiving some information from the people. And I have 2 here that I can tell you about. Summertown Metals, they sent back that as much as I hate to do this, I'm going to have to pass because there's too many stipulations. The next time it came through, it was from, let me get my phone up here. It was from White Construction, and their comment then was, I know it's not your fault, but the bid process was way too complicated. And you know, he still doesn't have a bid for that building, and come January, we have been in it a year. We want to move on with this, but if we can't get people to bid because there's complications or extreme process, I would appreciate if we take a look at what we're doing and what's in there that's causing the problem. And like I said, Benny could probably address this a little bit more in detail with you. But those are the 2 things that he sent me. I think he had another one, but I didn't get it. So that's our concern. It's just that it's a complicated process, and I'm not sure what the problem is.
Okay, I'm looking at a bid evaluation sheet that's dated January 27th, 2020. And there are 2 bidders on there, White's Construction and Overhead Door Company of Johnson City. The overhead door company, they just have noted on here, it's just for door only. White's Construction submitted 2 bids, one for 2,500 square feet, 48,338, one for 3,500 square feet, 62,227. And to my knowledge, there was nothing said at that point about the bid requirements being too much. I mean, there's 5 or 6 forms they have to sign, and I'm not sure exactly what the problem is.
Well, the one I have here on paper is dated January 15th. That's from Summertown. So that was probably at the same time that bid come through, but we only had the 1 bid. The overhead door wasn't even the RFP, so that turned out to just be 1 bid. And the one from, I don't have a date on the one from White Construction. He sent that to me by text message.
Mm-hmm. Yes?
It's Austin James. I've got the requirement for bid submission in front of me. I had a couple questions about this down through here, if you don't mind.
All right.
all specifications must be met. I mean, I don't, you know, that ought to come out in the RFP. Everybody needs to do that anyways to make sure that they're bidding equally. The anti-collusion statement, is that something that's required by Tennessee code? Or is that something that we do?
It's just something we do.
Okay, and then the Iran Divestment Act, that's got a Tennessee code associated with it, so I'm supposing that's required.
That's right.
All right, and then the drug-free workplace affidavit, is that something we do, or is that something that's required by?
That's required for all construction contracts.
Okay, and then the IRS form, I'm in business, nobody works for me without filling a W-9 out. I mean, I got to
That's
be able
correct.
to get it back, so it is what it is. And then the proof of liability insurance and license and proof of workers' compensation. I mean, I understand some of it, but I don't know what they're saying so hard filling out. I mean, you know, now, if they're just providing us with materials and stuff, then I can understand, you know, maybe the workers' comp, and then, you know, some of the insurance really don't matter if they're providing just materials. But I mean, if they're doing work, they've got to have workers' compensation, or we're responsible for it.
Right.
The liability insurance, you know, they've got to have that, or we're responsible if something happens. So I don't understand I mean, there's not but about 3 or 4 forms here. I mean, and this is typically, I mean, besides the Iran Divestment Act and the workplace and the collusion, everything else I require in my business. So, I mean, you know, them forms ought to be pretty typical, and the Iran and the anti-collusion and the workforce is just simply a signature. There's not really anything to fill out besides your company name and a sign.
Correct. That's correct.
Well, on 2 or 3 of these, all of a sudden, they were just for materials. We weren't going to have them do the bids because we couldn't afford what they were coming up with. And the thing about the drug, we don't even require drug testing in the county. But we're going to require another company to do that to bring materials into the county?
Yeah, but now, Brad, does the drug force work, is that required by Tennessee code, though?
No, it is strongly recommended by CTAS.
Okay.
Well, the drug-free is required on construction projects.
Okay, so they won't need to fill that out if they're doing just material.
Right.
Okay, well, I mean, maybe we can modify that then. If they're just providing material, then they don't have to do the drug-free.
That would be a great help if some of this could be eliminated if we're only buying materials.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming some of this, though, I know can't be eliminated, like the W-9. Well, I guess, are you all required to have a W-9 and just purchase materials? I know we're not, as long as you have a receipt.
Yes.
Okay, so W-9 has to be filled out. We still need liability insurance. You know, the Iran Divestment Act, that's required by state. That's nothing we can do. And then the anti-collusion, I mean, it's whatever you all think, but I mean, I see the drug force we might be able to do something with if we're just doing material. But I don't.
Well, you know, these construction companies have to be doing more bids for other areas. It's interesting that they think ours is so complicated.
This is the first time that I've bid out things for 5 years. This is the first RFP that we've had to bid out 4 times in a row. I don't think it's as much about the paperwork as it's been a very difficult bid. I think this one's been hard for just the contractors. And also, I think Benny just getting the specs right and getting somebody interested has been difficult, because the first time we had 1 bid, legitimate bid. The other 2 times we didn't have a bid, and then the 3rd time we had another bid. So it's just the specs have changed each time. It's not been the same thing. The cost to bid it out is $70 approximately with the Elizabeth and Star, and then $200 with Johnson City Brads.
So have we changed these anytime in this? I mean, how long has this been in place? Has this been several years? Has this been something that's, these are some new requirements or what?
So to be fair, when I first started bidding, we didn't do every bit of these bid requirements. They were required, but under Krista's leadership, we just never did it. When Brad started, as you guys know, there was a lot of changes. We started becoming more aligned with our own policies. So about when Mr. Burke started to be added in, the anti-collusion statement and those other Iran Investment Act and things like that.
Well, Benny can be talking to these people on the phone prior to this, and they're all for it. They give him the bids and they talk to him, and then he says, well, you got to do the RFP. And then all of a sudden we get back that it's too complicated. There's too many things that we just can't afford to do it this way. And we don't.
And I think this is the only time Benny's gotten that, because in the past we've gotten very good responses to most of Benny's bids.
Now, I'd like to say that besides of the RFP, in contracting, you've got to consider that the time that we're living in right now, because of the virus, there is a lot of small companies that are not available. And those that are existing, they are covered up. Matter of fact, there are several small contractors that does not have time to take on new contracts. Could be a big factor. And having worked in the construction industry and design and writing specifications, I know for a fact that how you write that specification depends on how your bids are going to come. It may mean you may look to see in your specs how that can be changed or some items eliminated. Because as an example, of course, the federal government is big in size, but we found out after we finished our specification, we had to evaluate the spec to see what the boilerplate, what the front end, the requirement of the contractor to do. And on the VA grounds as a $32 million nursing home, the boilerplate was equal to $2.7 million, just a requirement for the contractor, which none of that 2.7 went in the building at all. It was just what it required him in time to do for the request of the federal government. But the list on the items of conditions for this requirement, that's 5 out of 7 is nothing but a signature. And I mean, if that's painful, we'll get something, we should be able to help that contractor move his arm. I think that it may be in the specs, and then again, it may be on what is available in the market today. There's a lot of a lot of contractors or small contractors that does home repairs and remodeling. They are zonked in this county, and we don't have, used to, there was we're close to like 14 of us that were licensed general contractors in the county. We're down to 4 in the whole county right now of any value at all.
I don't think these were small construction companies, but like I said, Benny could probably explain it a little bit better than I could, and I wish he could be on here. And I may ask you to hold this over to next month so he can give you some more explanation. But it just seems interesting that every time we send out a bid, then we get this same process back. And it started in January before the pandemic.
Okay.
And again, I'd like to correct, it's not every bid. This is the only bid that we've had in the whole county where we've had this issue.
Okay.
Including Benny's department, the first bid that I've heard this from.
Does anybody have any objections to me to defer this to next month for Commissioner Colors? You can have Benny to be there that we can address this one more time to put it to rest. Also, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Burke, y'all look from that side and see, evaluate it for the next 30 days as to what. But we may find that there's more additions that has to go on there, but we also at the same time may be able to eliminate some on there before we can bring this to a head next month. Anybody disagree with that? Finding none, it so be ordered.
Hey, Brad, could you also get either Benny or Sanja to kind of give us a list of what they think the issue is so we can have something to look at more specific?
I can have Benny come by and see you about that.
That's perfect. Thank you, Sanja.
And Sanja, tell him to be nice.
Why do I want to do that?
No, he will know. Tell him to be real nice.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Next item, let's see, number 4 was deferred on account of a call from the Sheriff's Department. Number 5, discussion of regarding the new finance director, employees, accounting clerk, and human resource manager. In your packet is basic position descriptions. Director Burke, I'll let you to address that to the committee.
Okay. We'll start on page 15, which is the Human Resources Coordinator job description. You can see there's several items listed there that this position would be responsible for. They would still be involved in the payroll to a certain extent and have oversight over the payroll. Would coordinate with all the insurance brokers, workers' comp companies, insurance companies, so on and so forth, for employee benefits. Assist office holders. I don't want to sit here and read these off to you. I know you can read them yourself and probably already have. Does anybody have any questions about any of these job descriptions or requirements or attributes? Any suggestions, recommendations?
Looks just fine, Director Burke, I believe.
I'm sorry, Austin, you cut out.
I said, I believe it looks just fine in my opinion.
Okay, thanks.
Any others? Seeing none, we'll continue to item number 6. Review for approval of the Fisher Auto Parts credit application by the Carter County School Bus Garage and the solid waste. Those are
Hey, Brad?
items. Yes.
Does anybody have any questions about the other job description, the accountant?
Director Burke,
Yes.
I would be interested, if you think you're going to need to use the entire amount that the commission provided to your department, or do you think you could possibly come in a little less than that?
Of course, for this year, since we're already a month into it, definitely could. I was kind of leaving the salaries open to see what kind of experience and capabilities that would come in on the resumes, and do the best I can do with it. Not my goal is not to spend ever down of that 110,000.
Okay, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Brad, what was the final numbers you were looking at as far as salary wise on both of those?
It just all depends on their capabilities, experience.
Okay, I think at our previous meeting and also on the floor of the commission, the total or combined of both with benefits and salary, I think came to 110,000. Is that not correct, Mr.
That's
Burke?
correct. That's correct.
And I think the HR position was classified somewhere around the 65,000 total. Is that correct?
Not that I remember.
Okay. You can't depend on my memory, and I can tell you that for sure.
So Brad, are you going to make it dependent on qualifications? Or are you going to have a salary range in mind?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Burke, you intend before your final decision to bring it for the committee?
I can. It's, whatever y'all want me to do.
Well, I think it's up, I don't know, maybe they may have other opinions, but to me, yeah, I think professionally it's up to you to select the best qualified person when you go into however you're going to do in making this selection. But I think as a committee that oversees the financial management and the finance department, that it should be brought before the total committee before you come to a final decision. Everybody else's input is more than welcome. Well, there's a lot of opinions there.
I agree with everything you just.
Johnson, can you repeat that?
Commissioner Holder?
I said, I just want to agree with everything you just said. I believe that more than likely, we would be supportive of the decision that Director Burke makes. But I do think it's always good to have that other set of eyes looking over something before it becomes final. That's a common practice in the school system, for example. The director might choose someone, but then it has to go before the school board. So I think it would be similar to what we're talking about here. I think it's a good idea, but Director Burke, that is in no way to say that we don't trust you to make a wise choice. I definitely believe you will.
Oh, I understand.
I just want to make sure that we look at everything when we do it. I agree. I wouldn't care to kind of glance over it when he gets who he picks, wants picked out. But I know I had this discussion once before, and our policies and procedures pretty well leaves it completely up to the directors. So I just want to make sure we're not trampling on our own policies and procedures. So if we can look back at that and make sure there's not no issues with it. Because we're having some real bad issues of not following our own policies and procedures at the moment. So if that's something we need to change for the future, we just want to confirm it.
Okay, I understand, but the two you may want to consider, you need to go back and read your 81 Act. Remember, the finance department works solely under the umbrella of the financial management. Okay, what I'm had spoke with Mr. Burke about is once that these two have been identified, or even prior to it, as not only a courtesy, but they should be a structure for the finance department. Number one, that should be distributed amongst all of our county commissioners as to knowing how the structure of that department is and who's responsible for what. The input on how that daily business is done, because there are so many on our commission that doesn't have a clue as to who does what in that department. So if they need to get a hold of a particular person, they can do so. But it's also a good check and balance for our finance committee to see that everything, that we have overlaps. Just like as an example, we just went through on our employee pay clerk, my speech impediment, the pay clerk, that if something happened to her in midweek, who's going to write the checks for our employees? See, we're tasked with that responsibility. So I think it's just not to say that how Mr. Burke sets his structure down. It is a matter of fact of knowledge and understanding, and everybody in our commission understands how that system works in there and who they can contact. Any further? All right, the item that we're on right now is number 6, is for the approval for the Fisher Auto Parts credit application for the school bus garage and to the solid waste. Dr. McAbee, you have anything on that, or is there somebody, Director Burke, whichever one?
So essentially this was brought to me from Fisher Autos. They work with the solid waste, and they don't currently work with solid waste and school bus garage, but they would like to. And currently I think both departments work with Advance Auto and some of the other auto stores around here. So this will be just another credit line for these two departments to go and pick up tools or whatever they need. So, and as you guys know, policy requires any credit applications to go through you guys before they get approval.
What is the pleasure of the committee?
I'll make a motion to approve those credit applications.
I second it.
Is that you, Mr. Hill?
No, it's
That was
Roger.
Mr. Coolball.
Cobalt? Okay, I'm sorry. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Kennedy, if you would call the roll.
All right. Brad Johnson,
Aye.
Travis Hill,
Aye.
Tracy McAbee,
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Mayor Rusty Barnett,
Yes.
Roger Cobal,
Yes.
Austin James.
Yeah.
With the good electronic yes, Austin James is in.
The vote is unanimous. Next item is update from the finance director.
No, I apologize, Mr. Johnson. You wanted me to remind you we have 6B, which is the Sheriff's Department and school looking at switching from Fuelman to Exxon.
That's right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, sir.
We have, if I understand right, Captain Smith, you're present.
Yeah.
Do you want to address that for your department?
Well, we've had several issues with Fuelman. Probably started back around the February, March timeframe. We had an issue with a billing arriving late. Can't remember now the exact reasoning why, but they got it 2 days late, and they charged a $75 fee just for it being late. And through negotiations, I think Micah ended up getting it down to about half of what it actually was, and so that's the only concession they would give. And I've talked to Wayne Sams at the school bus garage, and he said he's had several issues as well. And their fees just continue to go up. They just recently sent out a notice for an increase in a fee for if it's not a premium station that's on their list, it's a $5 added charge per transaction. And, you know, the only time we use Fuelman, of course, is whenever the pumps go down or we're on a transport out of county. So, you know, our limit is not that much, but my understanding with school bus garage that it's considerable. So I think we would save a lot of money in the end if we look for another provider on that.
Yeah, Wayne Sams, I depend on him. He's the transportation guy there. So he's for this, moving away from Fuelman, and so I support it as well.
And just so you guys know, the credit limits we would be asking for approval, Wayne Sams texted me, and their credit limit is $69,300, which they currently have with Fuelman. They would be needing with Exxon. And the Sheriff's Department, their current credit limit is $32,700, which they have with Fuelman, which will need to be with Exxon as well.
Does the rest of the county fall into that because you've got
Yes,
EMA?
exactly. And let me clarify, because Tom was completely correct. When I say the 32.7, that's not just Sheriff's Department. That also covers the rest of the county.
Okay, Tom, question. I remember using the fuel man prior to my retirement out of the department. Is Exxon going to be the sole supplier to us under fuel man? I mean, or can it be multiple petroleum companies?
Well, it'll be Exxon, whatever they accept. I mean, you'd have to probably go to a MasterCard or Visa if you wanted to include all vendors out here to provide service. But most every place that we travel, you're going to run into an Exxon station somewhere.
Yeah, I know when we traveled to Nashville to the academy or whatever, we always knew that Lebanon was the benchmark for us to refuel because that was where the most current or local fuel man. I don't know, they may be more now.
I can tell you, I pulled up on the app. Fuelman actually has an app, and I pulled up to try to find their premium stations where it does not charge that $5 extra charge, and I could not find any in our area. So, and Moffin's down here used to be a Fuelman card, used to accept it. Now they do not. And in talking with Wayne Sams, he's got a family member apparently that's attached to the Gas and Go, I guess, Food City, and they will not accept Fuelman either. So I think there is a reason there most everybody's going away from it, and it's getting to the point that we cannot find a station to fuel at.
Well, then under them circumstances, Director Burke, would it not be more usable to go on to a Visa or a master charge for the fuel for outside county use than it would be to the fuel man? That way it opens up an avenue of different petroleum companies for our travel.
The sheriff's department currently has a Visa credit card. At this time, I don't know what the credit limit on it is, but the benefit with Exxon and Fuelman is the multiple cards that you can get and have a card for each vehicle.
And we would have to have probably in the neighborhood of roughly 40 cards for our department.
What would that do to the school department now because of the buses and their transportation? Would going under a Visa rather than a fuel man, would that work and be more beneficial to the school department than it would be by using the fuel man? Or is that something you want to look into, Dr. Axby? I didn't mean to put that on you off the front.
Well, and again, I would have to check in on it because I don't know Wayne's schedule and what he does with all his transportation and different vehicles he has. So I'd need to talk with him before I made any kind of decision.
Okay, I understand.
I think it would be best to have the fuel items isolated on one particular card instead of having those go in with the other credit card purchases, because it's very time consuming as it is to reconcile those credit card statements each month.
And also, just for a controls purpose, you wouldn't want that many regular credit cards just rolling around in between hands either.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
has anybody reached out to the city about using theirs in emergency situations for our local use? I mean, I know we need something for out of county, but has anybody looked with the city about for emergency purposes?
Do they have a fuel pump?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a fuel pump over at the garage.
I don't think we've looked.
I know some. I think some of our there's a squad. I think they use if they use the city pump some.
Rusty, I think we have contracts with some of the volunteer fire departments and others, and we basically bill them out every month for what they use.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Mr. Hill?
That's not a decision I can make. That'd be something between
I'm just
Mr. Ed.
Do you think that'd be feasible to talk with them about it?
I mean, we have pumps at the electric system and the city garage, and if one goes out, we transfer them to the other. So it's just all about billing and reconciling all who gets what fuel and what. So.
Okay.
Are those accessible 24 hours a day?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they used to be. I know they should still be.
If they were getting a city garage, they'd have to have a code to open the gate up and then to actually get into the fuel system. So.
And they use the bobs, don't they? I mean, the little bobs.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that eliminate that uncovers the source within our county. Now, what about outside of county where the fuel man comes in?
Chairman Johnson.
Do I read that on?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Coldren.
I'd just like to make a motion that we allow these departments to switch from Fuelman cards to Exxon Mobil cards.
I second that motion.
They made a motion to switch from Fuelman to Exxon.
All right. It was a Commissioner Holden. You were overrode by Mr. James. Miracle voice, sir. Would you restate your motion, please?
I would just like to do what these departments have requested, make a motion to allow them to switch from Fuelman cards to Exxon cards.
Okay. I have a motion on the table. Switch from the fuel man to the Exxon. Do I have a second to that motion?
I think Mr. James was the second.
Oh, God. Yeah, he's the second. Yeah, he's the second, all right. Austin, did you second that motion?
I second it, Brad, and I'd comment, but they told me not to pick on the handicap, so.
Okay, I know where you live. Don't worry about that. Any further comment? Seeing none, Mr. Kennedy, if you would call for the vote.
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Travis Hill,
Aye.
Tracy McAbee,
Yes.
Ginger Holdren,
Yes.
Mayor Rusty Barnett,
Yes.
Roger Cobalt,
Yes.
Austin James.
Yes.
All right, Tom, are you going to collect all your fuel man cards?
I've already been doing that.
Okay, all right. Let's see, their counterpart at the garage, see, they will have to change theirs out also. If you hook up them, see if they go ahead and get theirs collected too.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is update by the county mayor, Mayor Barnett.
I actually think it's funny. Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Thank you, Michael. Back up, that'd be number 7. Updates for finance director. Sorry, Mr. Burke.
That's fine. I just want to say, I appreciate the Financial Management Committee's support, and it really makes a difference with the finance department. And we'll continue to work hard and do all we can do to serve the county. First of all, like was mentioned earlier, we are still in the process of closing out 1920. We have to have all the books closed out by August 31st, according to state law. We also have to file a final expenditure report for the school department on lead plan. We anticipate having these responsibilities taken care of in time and properly. And there is one other item I want to follow up from last month. I think Ginger had a question about the funding for the recycling center building, and I looked in the minutes. There was no mention of any insurance recovery going back to the general fund. I just wanted to follow up with that. That's all I have.
Chairman Johnson,
Commissioner Holdren.
Director Burke, I realized last month that we didn't have it in our minutes. So my comments were saying basically that we need to make sure in the future, if that's important to us, that we do state it in our motions and whatnot.
Okay.
All right. Any further, Mr. Burke?
That's it.
Brad? Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
Brad, I know it's a little early, but do you happen to have any idea how much we're going to roll into fund balance this year?
I don't have the payable set up yet.
Okay. Now you did say the sales tax come in about $600,000 more than budgeted
For the schools.
for the schools. Okay.
It did come in above estimates for the county as well. 150,000. 150,000.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, the general update, Mayor Barnett.
All right. First of all, let's start with something, the most serious thing. As soon as we get finished this meeting, I will be extending Executive Order Number 5, requiring face mask covering in Carter County, Tennessee, through August the 29th at 11:59, with the exception of adding one thing. It'll be we'll be changing just one thing. Is it where it's on page 3, if you've got it, by the order that no requirements for face covering be worn by a child 12 years of age or younger. We'll be changing that. We'll leave that at 12 years or younger, except with upon the discretion of superintendent of schools, if he wants to mandate it in his school system. Is that okay with you, Mr. Tracy, Dr. Tracy?
But what we're having to do is we're just following Tennessee Department of Health guidelines. And so they are requiring that of all school-age children except for those with special needs who cannot put on a face mask themselves, or the really young that just chew on them. So I think that aligns better to what the Department of Health guidelines are.
Okay. I just wanted to correct that, make that, that's going to be in the order. So that'd be going in effect at 12:01 tomorrow, August the 4th. Okay. Still talking with Northeast State. I was hoping to get them on Zoom tomorrow night, but I hadn't got in touch with her today. I'll get with the chairman if we can add them tomorrow night or something. But I was wanting them to come with some different. I asked them to have 3 different scenarios, what they would, what they request. So if we don't get them this month, we will try to get them next month. But we still are in the talks, and they're still wanting to stay. And as the staff is up there as we speak today, unless something has changed, they were supposed to report today. Okay. Closing of Northeast Correctional Annex has been hit me last week, and I've made several calls, and it's in the talks that they're wanting to close it's the Rome Mountain Annex. They call it the Northeast Correctional Annex. So I've talked to several people, and we're going to lose a bunch of jobs if they do close it. They do a lot of work. I was hoping they could even help us some at the landfill, at the recycling, but they're talking about maybe moving them. There's 110 inmates right now, and they like to keep it at 180. I said, everywhere I hear, I told them I talked to some of the big officials, and I said, everywhere I hear, they're overcrowded. I said, what's the problem here? I know they're overcrowded, sleeping on floors and everything else, so they can do something with that to keep that open. I hate to see them close that, because they do a lot of work from Jonesboro to Sullivan County. I think the city's got a work crew every day, and they do a lot of work. So I hope I can have a little help with trying to keep them from closing the annex. Got the coroner's vehicle arrived on Friday, so our coroner will have Captain Smith has been helping me get lined up to get the radio system put in this week. We're gonna have it, have the stripe in there or whatever we put on the sides of it, and it should be hopefully in operation in a week or so. So that's good for our coroner. Just wanting to talk a little bit about a maintenance supervisor. We talked about that in some of the committees about hiring one. We don't need to hire one. I've got one that can take over. He's good at it. Mr. Ron Kirby, and I'd like to get have a maintenance supervisor. We don't have to hire. We can hire somebody later on, but right now he would be the supervisor and work. They're saving us a lot of money from the things they do throughout the county. Talking about the COVID-19, we've had 424 cases. We've got 323 that's still active in Carter County. 5 deaths. You probably hear it like I will too when we put out this mandate again, but we had 17 yesterday. We're staying above 15 every day, and until this levels off, we cannot. I've had some ugly phone calls that they've done their investigation, but I asked them if they was an EMD. They said no. So I said I'm not either. So we'll go with what the CDC guidelines is. With Dr. Tracy's doing the same thing, so we have to do what they say. That's what I think. They're the MDs. So we'll go through the 29th and see how that goes. Just one more little thing here. The Sluter property. I just I know that's under building and grounds and all that, but we've got the septic tank, water line installed. We're getting ready to, we'll have it been hooked up here when it quits raining, and electricity is about a half a day out. So pretty soon we'll have electricity and water, and then we'll start working. Then we can start working on the inside of it. So excited about that project. Other than that, I'm sure Mr. Caldwell will tell you about another little project that's kind of went south with us, but he'll tell you in his report. So that's all I've got, unless you got a question for me.
You said you would like some help on keeping the Northeast Correctional Facility open. Can you guide us as to who we need to speak with?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. Can somebody?
Mr. Roden, you need to get closer to your mic because it's very muffled. Listen.
Okay. I was just asking the mayor to whom we need to speak.
Well, only ones I knew to start with was the representatives and our officials from here to Nashville, and I spoke pretty loudly, and they said, well, it's not happening anytime soon, but it has been in the talks. So, I don't even want it to be in the talks because, I'm not sure exactly the total number of jobs it is, but it's the jobs plus what they do and helping the community save money. And any representative or any official that you guys know, we need to push. I mean, I'm going to be pushing. I hope you'll help me. We need to keep that open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor. Seeing none. Next, Superintendent Caldwell.
Yes, the highway department this morning is removing trees and brush and stuff that happened out over the weekend. We had people out working that's on call that cleared the roads up, but the brush and stuff still at the edge of the roads and stuff and everything. And for your information, we always send every week the information to 911 who is on call and who they need to get in touch with to take care of the emergencies. And it works pretty good that way for our part. And then the person, there's only one person on call, and when they have problems, one person might be able to take care of that. We always like to have two people out together though. And but if they need more, they call them in. But this morning we were trying to, in between rains, I guess, trying to get the brush and stuff out of the road stuff there. Up on Lower Fork Creek, there's a big tree that went in, and hopefully this morning we will get that cleared out to stop any possible flooding, because if stuff got washed against that tree, it could cause some flooding on Swim Pool Road. Just what the highway department's, for the most part this morning, is going through. Since we mentioned fuel, I'd like to say their fuel pumps on Sunday morning, and I believe it's from about 1 to 5 o'clock in the morning, 2 to 5 o'clock in the morning, is when our computer system runs its check to make sure the system is working right. We have a sign out there at the pumps for nobody to use it during that time, but every now and then somebody does, and it shows us a failure, and we're required by the state to monitor that. So they monitor that system, and if we have too many, they may want to shut us down. So I would like for all the departments to try to observe that time limit and not do any fueling during that time that we have to do. As I mentioned before, we got the Powder Branch Bridge finished, and hopefully, and we are working on the bridge on Dennis Cove. And I hope Summer and Taylor gets started this week. They have it so far. Get started this week on the Hodge Branch Bridge, which was shut down. We give them 5 months to complete that bridge, and it's already 1 month over, and they haven't started work yet. But hopefully they will jump on it pretty soon and get started on the thing. Another thing I wanted to mention is in our minutes of June the 6th, on page 3 and 4, item 3, where we voted to accept the $43,421.40 from Sequoia Group, and then we voted on that. Everyone voted yes, but in the full commission, it wasn't brought up. They were just simply brought up to forgive them of that, and it was not mentioned, I don't believe. I was listening in on my phone, but it was not mentioned that that we voted on that to accept it. It was just forgive. And I was just wondering why it was not mentioned, because I would think that what we vote on in our committee should be brought up to the full commission.
Superintendent Cobalt, I'll address that. It was brought up on the full floor, and it was voted on. The vote was 18-5, I think it was, in accepting.
Yes, I know that, Mr. Johnson. But it was not, from what I understood, it was not brought up that we accepted the money. It was just brought up to forgive it.
The payment hadn't been done. The only thing that was reported to our committee was by Director Burke that an agreement for a settlement had been made, which the agreement to them, Sequoia, was $43,429.40. And on the motion on the floor was for them to not to be liable or to have to pay the county that amount because of the amount of money turned back into our county from our insurance.
I understand that, Brad, but what our committee voted was not mentioned. What our committee voted was not mentioned there.
What was not mentioned? I'm sorry.
What we voted to accept the.
Well, the committee accepted, but the motion on the floor was different.
I know.
Brad,
I'm saying that what we voted on was not mentioned in the full commission.
Brad, can I touch on that, please?
Yes, Mr. Hill.
I think what Roger's question, same thing I'm going to question, is you represent the will of this committee. The will of that committee of this committee was to get that $43,000, but your motion on the floor was to forgive it. How come you didn't go with what the committee wanted to go with?
That's a pretty good question, except I have the right as a commissioner of my district to make any motion on the floor, just like you do, even though I chair and I know what the chair is. Now, I can tell you, after giving $500,000 in cash to this county, you want to assess them $43,000?
But that was the will of the committee. You should have, what you should have done, in my opinion, I'm just asking because I'm new to this as you. I thought you as the chairman have to present the motion as it was voted on.
The minutes stood as herself. If that was when it came up in there on the committee report, the minutes stood for itself, which that's a part of the minutes. My motion came as a commissioner.
Okay, I thought you did it as the chairman of the financial management during your report. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, no, sir. No, I didn't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Cobalt.
I guess, anybody got any questions?
Roger, I appreciate you getting back with me on that tree and on Swimming Pool Road.
Okay, I have, of course, because of this meeting, I haven't been up there, but Jonathan Powell's supposed to take his crew with another Great All crew too, and try to get that out before they start working back on the swimming pool project. We've got quite a bit of work's going on up there on Lower Fork Creek. Quite a bit of work. It's a big project that's covering about $300,000 or more. And there's quite a bit of cobble and debris and trees and stuff in that river. And we're trying to get that removed, plus building weirs and bank stabilization. And it's a project that we're supposed to get done. We're doing it through Natural Resources, Department of Agriculture. It's a project we're supposed to get done by the end of September. We have hopes if we can keep the right weather and everything, we might be done by the 1st of September. But them weirs and stuff and cleaning out that creek is really going to help the Swimming Pool Road and that flooding on that flooding in that area.
Yes, I went there yesterday and took a look at that tree, and the work your guys have done has been amazing. It looks very nice.
Yes, Jason Hughes with the natural resources, he's guiding us on that. He's there every day inspection, making sure that we do it correctly. And of course, he's keeping our time on equipment and the personnel, plus the materials and stuff and everything, which it's a 75% reimbursement, and it's reimbursement on everything.
All right, any further, Superintendent Cobalt?
Mr. Chairman,
Sir,
I got a question. Hey, Mr. Cobalt, I got an alert from Com Center the other night about having to close Riverview Drive again. Is that correct?
We never closed Riverview Drive. I don't know how that got started. It may have been a tree down or something like that, but that project, we never closed it. It was just a confusion because I think it was on River Road or somewhere else. It was not on Riverview. It was not closed. We checked that out.
Okay, I'll shoot this to you here in a few minutes. It says, all units be advised, Riverview Drive will be closed until further notice by Highway Department. The road has started to sink again in the same area as before.
The Com Center did that. That's not from us. We did not close it. It's not sinking. We checked it out. There's not a problem with her.
Okay, so disregard that. Okay, that's just what I got. I just want to make sure. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Is that it? Roger?
Unless anybody has any more questions.
Seeing none. Dr. Tracy McAbee, Director of Schools, you have anything?
Well, just I appreciate the meeting today. I'm going to have to jump off here at 10 with the new changes with the Department of Health. We're going to have a meeting with superintendents at 10. Otherwise, I mean, I bet you can gather what I'm into, and that's starting the school year off. We're going to have a staggered 2 weeks where 25% of the kids come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, different kids, so we can definitely social distance. And then Friday will be a day where we deep clean every school, and then we can debrief about what happened. My hunch is, as the numbers are going up, that we may have to go virtual. So the reasoning behind bringing kids in at all is they have to be taught how to use Canvas and do the online learning and that type of thing. So really, that's just encompassing our entire day, every day. Any questions for me?
There are several committees and commissioners and everything, of course, on the topic of broadband, because I know it's a great effect to the school system, because there's a lot. I'm going to take a jab and say there's more than half our county that has no access whatsoever. So that puts the weight on the teacher's shoulder and the board and you and your staff.
Yes.
This is not going to be a fast thing. I just heard a lot of people make comments or recommendations on how that we can do it pod wise, a remote bus wise, or whatever. I'm not an electronic genius, so I don't know if there is a resolve that can be offered.
No, it's complicated, and we do we've done a lot of work at the schools so that our internet can go out into the parking lots. If parents need to pull in there, they can do work in the parking lot. However, we still have a lot of folk who do not have internet, and they prefer that their child have hard copies of the material. So even if they had internet, I think they're still preferring hardback books and that kind of thing. So we're trying to accommodate folk the best we can.
Dr. McAbee?
Yes.
I know you're trying to get off here. Are they going to provide lunches every day for all the kids to pick up?
Absolutely. So back in the spring, that was an SSO type deal. I think that's the initial, where we could have ran buses if we wanted to. Right now, that has not been approved. The waiver has not been approved. So we cannot deliver food right now with buses. However, if it's a day that you're not at school, we'll have the lunches at the school for anybody to come by and pick up.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Dr. McAbee,
Yes.
is the school system trying to get countywide participation in our broadband internet survey?
No, we did a survey about who has internet and who does not, and we even asked in that further. We dug a little deeper. Is it that you don't purchase it or you don't have access to it, because there's a difference there if you have access or not, you just prefer not to. So we've been getting some of that data back. The last time I saw, it was, I think, around 20% responding that they did not have access to the internet. But again, the issue with that is we're asking about internet over the internet. So my hunch is there'll be more than that. So that's the other thing we're going to do when we get the kids in, is ask that on paper for the parents to write down whether they have internet access or not.
Okay. Are you familiar with what I'm referring to? The study that Mark Hill and Dr. Acuff's committee are trying to accomplish to get broadband internet in more locations in Carter County?
I've been told that that's there. I mean, as far as all the nuances that exist in that, I'm not privy to all of that, but I know that Mr. Acuff and different ones are working on it.
Right. I was just hoping that we could add all the information control with our data that we're getting from other sources, just to give us a maximum participation.
Yeah, I can work on that.
I think it will help our case, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Dr. Acuff, you want to touch on that before Doctor gets off here?
Sure. I think everybody, well, most people know that tomorrow's Health and Welfare Committee has that as a priority agenda item. Commissioner Mike Hill will report on the survey as completed thus far. I think he's got, I thought I saw 233 responses to the survey that he sent out. And as Dr. McAbee said, we're asking it online, which I would suspect, I would support his statement that we probably have a lot more that don't have access than 20%. So everybody can join tomorrow night. It's the same connectivity that you used for today's meeting. We would love as much participation as we could get on this particular issue. And as Chairman Johnson mentioned, it's not going to be an easy one to solve, but one that First Tennessee Development District and other folks and other funding agencies are willing to help us with, and we need to take advantage of that. So thanks, Mayor.
Yes.
Okay. There's another item too, just to call your attention. You may go back on the computer and can pull it up. Yesterday morning on CBS, Good Morning, I think it is. It's the Hour and a Half segment just right before church. That was one of the big topics, was the broadband, which it released an unbelievable amount of information that we need to arm ourselves with. And it also sets the perimeter of what we got to operate in. So if you can go back and see that, it's about a 20-minute segment on it. And it's by the FCC and some of their committee persons. So, Dr. McAbee, I know you mentioned that you had a meeting. You can go ahead and I'll grant permission, but I can understand if you go ahead and leave if you don't have anything else.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Call me or email me if y'all need anything, and I'll be happy to help.
Call you anything, okay. All right, if nothing else, anything else directed to Dr. McAbee? All right, thank you. Next, Commissioner James.
I don't have anything.
All right, thank you, Commissioner James. Commissioner Hill.
This is more of a question towards, I guess, Michael and Brad. I know the status on the Evergreen's on hold. Do they have a plan of when they're going to pick back up?
So as far as Evergreen goes, they've been wanting to pick up since we left, but the only options we have would be to have, because we're at the step where it's all group meetings. And obviously with COVID rising, I can promise you right now, if I tried to get group meetings between some of these department heads, there would be chaos. A lot of them don't want to do group meetings, and I understand somewhat the reason why. And then the only other option, if we don't do group meetings, would have everyone do it virtually. And I think that'd be very difficult because some departments don't use computers. And that if we did do it virtually, it would require Brad or myself to do the explanation on what they need to do, train them on how to do it, which is normally what Evergreen would do. So we're kind of in a predicament. Either we wait till COVID laxes back down and things seem to be normal and have the group meetings, or we see about getting Brad or myself trained on doing the presentation and trying to implement the strategy for Evergreen.
Okay. Have they billed us anything yet at all?
No, they have not built anything because we haven't really, the only thing that's been done is our office has provided them with all their requested information.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we got to keep in mind also under this pandemic that where this company is at is in Florida. Their executive orders are further or more than we have in this state, and all the states in between, like South Carolina and Georgia, and their travel, they have executive orders that they've got to adhere to. So travel requirements is a beast. Matter of fact, I know for a fact in the South Carolina area, if you come in there with New York plates, Connecticut plates, Maine plates, and you think you're going to stay in South Carolina, then they're going to tell you go find you a place for 14 days. You're not going to do nothing except 14 days. And they all have different things for that. Anything
Right.
else you feel?
When we did our comp study a few years ago at the city, they actually had each one of us fill out a paper basically putting every duty we had, and then we submitted that to the guy so he could be studying, and he come back and physically interviewed each one of us. I didn't know if we were doing those paper sheets to send in to this group.
And to be fair, Travis, that's what they call the JAT or job assessment tool, which would be where they had the group meeting. So the group meeting would be to explain the rest of the actual study, and then it would explain to the employees how to sign on to the JAT, also give different options for some offices that don't have computers. For example, the highway department only has computers in their office. It would be setting up a workstation there for each employee to come and do it when they had time. That's the part we're kind of waiting on.
Okay, thank you. No further, Brad.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Holdren?
So I just want to address something that
Get close to your microphone. Okay.
I just wanted to comment about what Roger and Travis were saying.
Yes.
After thinking about it, I agreed that we probably should not charge Sequoia that $43,000 because I do fear that they will leave us when their time is up. If we do charge them that, even though they were very agreeable to paying it, it still may have repercussions down the road. But I think what we were expecting to see or would have liked to have seen was for you to have brought to the full commission what we had said, kind of like what Sonja Culler did with the landfill. She said, here's what the landfill voted, but I would like permission to take it back. And I think if you had done something more along those lines and said, here's how we voted, but since then, I've personally changed my mind. And, you know, I think that would have helped our committee to feel better. And those of us who are new and don't understand things as well as the experienced ones do, it would have just made the process a little smoother for us. But I agree with the outcome. And so I just wanted to try to kind of clarify how I was feeling personally. And then I just want to say thank you to everybody. We've had a good meeting this morning, and it's one of our shorter ones, I believe.
Yep.
It is very much. I appreciate the comment, and to Commissioner Hill. And I'm going to tell you, you're dealing with an absent-minded man. Now, that's why I have Mr. Kennedy standing by to keep watch over me that I don't get and that may be true. It is an error on my part, and I agree with what both of you say, and that is the procedure. But sometimes my mind goes fast, or my mouth will go faster than my mind does. Okay, but it's not. It's the intent is to serve as your chair and represent our committee, which is one of the best there is, and we get a lot done. And you all are extremely responsible, and I look forward to it. So if it is that and a misunderstanding, I apologize to you all for that.
Thank you. That was not necessary, but thank you, sir.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Thank you.
I do make errors, I'm telling you. Commissioner Holland, is that all, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
All right, I have no further comment. Is there any issues or things that you want to bring up? If not, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay, Chair, Mr. Austin, would you mind work on your voice level, please? We are dismissed. Thank you all for your very willing participation.
Thank you all.
See
Thanks,
ya.
everybody. Have a great
See ya.
day.
Bye.